Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Rodan. And today, I'm still continuing my Disney related marathon. So for this video, I figured I would do something Disney related, of course. So yeah, it's gonna be something in regards of news and whatnot. It's something, I guess it's kind of old news, but it's something I've been meaning to talk about anyway for a good while. And since I don't have anything else Star Wars related for the time being, and it's going to be something in regards of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, releasing a 4-hour version of that movie, like a director's cut or whatever. But yeah, I don't have a grudge against these series of films, even though some of the entries are rather lackluster, I guess you can say. But, okay, point being, do I really want to see a very long cut?
No!
Granted, I don't mind watching a very lengthy film, regardless of the franchise or genre. But the thing is that I still feel like this is one of the worst films ever made. And yeah, it's just, I didn't like it. And I still don't like it. I've already made a review for this film a long time ago. And yeah, and I know some people gave this film a positive review, which I find kind of odd because it's still not a good movie. Just like the previous installments of the prequel trilogy, it's still a terrible movie. So yeah, they want a 4-hour version of this film to be released on Disney Plus or what have you. That's just ridiculous. One thing that did come to mind is that, okay, maybe you can release the theatrical version and the director's cut version for any of the fans, like the hardcore fans that would have watched Star Wars regardless of the quality of the film. And I thought about the fact that this kind of thing was done before with another movie releasing both versions, the director's cut and the theater cut of a certain movie. Well, they just did that with Batman v Superman, the theatrical cut, and somehow it was popular enough to have the unedited version be released. Which, honestly, folks, yeah, that's another movie I've already reviewed a while back, but I'll say the same thing. Long story short, yeah, just both versions are still bad. Both versions are still really bad. But yeah, folks, the fans want to see, okay, some of the fans, because I know there's some fans that still don't like the prequels. Okay, to be exact, the prequel trilogy, that's how to say that. It makes it more confusing because there's other prequels, so I'm going to have to say the prequel trilogy. But anyway, for some odd reasons, there's some fans who still see the prequel trilogy as good movies, which I find odd because they're terrible. And for some odd reason, the third film, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, got a better reception compared to the previous two, which is odd because all these movies are terrible. The prequel trilogy, I mean. I know they were trying to have something going on here and whatnot, but it still proves to be a big convoluted mess, despite the fact that people like it. But yeah, some of them are actually don't mind and want to see a really full extended cut of this film, which I don't want to see it. There's some sort of petition or whatever to have it be released and have it on Disney Plus or something. I think this is probably a response to from the DC fans, because a lot of the DC fans have wanted to see the full extended version of the Justice League film, the Zack Snyder version to be exact. So I guess the same could be said with the Disney fans, the Star Wars fans, who want to see his movie, the full extension. I know some of the DC fans and the Star Wars fans can be actually really toxic, which is true in a lot of ways. But I know there's some Star Wars fans that seem to despise Disney for having the rights of these films, which I think is really stupid, but whatever. But anyway, yeah, some fans actually don't mind the fact that Disney is making these films. Yeah, some of the fans out there actually don't mind it. They just watch it anyway. Well, I myself was never exactly the biggest fan of these films, but I'll watch them anyway because out of curiosity. I know I've mentioned this once before, but I'll mention it again. I did not like the previous two films that came before this. I really did not like them at all. But I was just ready to give up on Star Wars. I was just thinking not to be bothered with it ever again. Because Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, were just really, really terrible. So I was done. I was probably done with these films. But I was originally not bothered going to watch this film when it came out because the previous two were terrible. But a lot of people were saying, okay, George Lucas made up for this one. George Lucas made this one much better. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking. And then I watched it. Okay, maybe George Lucas did learn from his mistakes. But no, he really didn't. Because this movie's terrible. If anything, I lost complete faith with Star Wars as a result of this movie. But nevertheless, of course, I watched the other Star Wars movies. I was pretty much just finished. I didn't want to deal with Star Wars anymore after this movie because I'm still going to think it's one of the worst films ever, which it is. I don't care what anyone tells me. It wasn't until I've actually watched Star Wars The Force Awakens, and the only reason I watched that movie was because somebody bought Elvis and I movie tickets as a Christmas present. So, yeah, we watched it, because otherwise I would have felt that we would have wasted their money, so thank you, individual. So anyway, Star Wars The Force Awakens, yes, restored my faith in Star Wars. I know I'm gonna get some angry comments because of that, but I really don't care. I like Star Wars The Force Awakens, and it's a far better film than this. Is Star Wars The Force Awakens a perfect movie? No. Might have some issues with it, but it's still better than this crap. Oh, a lot of people will be angry at the fact that there was a gay romance in the story, but okay, whatever. I'm not trying to make this like one of those kind of videos like I would usually do when it comes to this kind of stuff, but it's just kind of odd that the fan base would act like a certain way. Ah, damn it, it's Mr. Monkey. How many times do I have to tell you? I'm not gonna buy you these god awful movies. No, go and get. Scat. Go and get. You rascal. I mean, really. Just go back and watch Overwatch lesbian porn where you're at. Just leave me alone for a little while. God. Alright, folks, I'm trying to make this as fast as possible because I won't be here for too long. Even though this video is pretty lengthy as it is. So yeah, I don't want to see a 4-hour version of this film because I didn't even like the theatrical version at all. I still think it's one of the worst films ever made. In the spirit of capitalism, you could at least have the people have the option for it, I guess, to watch either version. I don't know, whatever. And one thing I want to bring up is the fact, going all the way back to the first episode, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, because in the grand scheme of these films, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, I'll bring up this character, who did appear in Episode 3 as well. One thing I never understood, okay, this was a major plot hole here, folks, is that, okay, Palpatine is obviously playing two type of characters. He's like a Two-Face, so to speak. They think he's playing one guy, and he's not this guy. Palpatine is obviously playing two different people. Kind of like a puppet master, so to speak. So he's obviously lying to that character and his friends. Even though, yes, the bad guys, the other villains. But you mean to tell me none of these characters recognize his voice, even though he's obviously using a disguise here? So, okay, they have the recordings in that one spot. So once they were arrested, you mean to tell me none of them saw I guess, the space police or whatever that was? The Senate, I guess, to be more exact, the Senate, the recordings that they had, of what they found, they could have easily brought them the recordings to the Republic. So why didn't that happen at all? Also, Queen Amidala, if I'm pronouncing her name right, excuse me if I'm butchering her name, whatever. Wasn't she like being forced to sign this trading, whatever, treaty, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. She was forced to sign this piece of paper to make the attack legal. Why didn't she say anything about those guys? And what if she actually did end up signing it in that movie? And the whole thing with the Jedi, and could find a way to go through some process to make that entire thing in a void somehow, which could have happened. And of course, the whole thing with the recordings, of course, with Palpatine or whatever. Wasn't she supposed to be the mastermind. If anything, there's actually evidence against him. But then I know he's supposed to link up to episode 3 where he becomes the Vader and all that, which also doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And this was never brought up again. Queen Amidala with the whole thing with the being forced to do this or whatever. That was never brought up ever again. What the actual hell? What was the entire point of setting up a plot line and just to abandon it later? What? Also, the whole idea where this film, just like the previous 2 installments, came off way too much of a cartoon in the sense that it was CGI heavy, and I didn't like that. It came off like too much CGI. Okay, let's to be more specific, too much reliant on CGI, if anything. Why do I want to stare at this for like 4 hours? That's like a whole other movie there when you think about it. And the whole bit where, yeah, she felt like she couldn't live anymore. She's gonna die of a broken heart or whatever. You're about to have 2 kids. That's not good enough of a reason to continue living. Wow, that makes her sound like a bitch if you ask me. And she's supposed to be a good person? Okay. And it doesn't make any sense anyway, because considering the fact that the whole thing with Jedi are not supposed to have a relationship, it was not an issue in the other movies, but now it is. That seems like another thing that doesn't make a whole lot of sense right there. So, how is she going to have children to begin with if she's forbidden to have a relationship? The same place they had sex. And why does it have to be a rule that Jedi can't have any relationships? It's a path to the dark side or whatever. I get what they're trying to say. That doesn't make any sense. I know that's supposed to be a rule, but why is it a rule? I don't get it. And yeah, speaking of continuity errors and whatnot, yeah, this Yoda holding up a green lightsaber. That alone is dumb. Really, really absolutely dumb. Because I can actually use one of the original films from the original trilogy to prove this. Because didn't Yoda say brute force wasn't really necessary? He's not the muscle mass or whatever and whatnot. So you think in the prequel films, the prequel trilogy, I mean, since they're supposed to take place before, you think he would have the same kind of thing? I kind of have a notion you shouldn't be doing that or whatever. But okay. Just seems like a contradiction right there. So you mean to tell me that this scene right here is just going to show her dying and not want to live for the kids? Another thing that does bug me is that okay, doesn't the Jedi have visions and whatnot? Look at her. You think Princess Leia would have had a vision of something, right? Okay, case in point. I don't know. She's supposed to be royalty or something. I don't have to go back to Force Awakens again for a brief moment here because when you think about it, in that film, Rey does have a vision of certain things and whatnot, and she's not a fully trained Jedi. I mean, okay, she became a Jedi, and her life became something else completely different than she originally expected to be, of course. But even before she was a fully trained Jedi, she had a vision and whatnot of her parents. So what gets me is that why couldn't the same thing happen to Princess Leia? Especially in episode 6, The Return of the Jedi, when it was revealed that they're actually related and whatnot. So you think something would have clicked right there or whatever, or maybe sometime before? So I don't get it. If this could happen with Rey before she becomes a fully trained Jedi, why couldn't the same thing happen with her as well? I guess Luke Skywalker as well too when you think about it. But yeah, I just didn't get it. I mean, okay, technically, according to the expanded universe of Star Wars, she does have a stepmother or whatever. But still, I just don't get it. At least let that happen with the character of Luke Skywalker once he realizes who his true parents are. I mean, you think after it's revealed, he discovers the truth, he will have a vision of the mother. I mean, okay, I know the whole thing with the idea of the Jedi character's gonna have visions of the future or something, but you think something down the line he would have put two and two together. Concerning the fact with the character of Princess Leia, she was adopted or whatever, and according to some of the stories that was made for the expanded universe of Star Wars. So yeah, folks, basically, I just don't want to see a 4-hour version of Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. There's so many plot holes in this. I mean, a lot of plot holes. And even after this film's storyline is wrapped up, you mean to tell me they still couldn't figure out who Palpatine is? I mean, come on. Going back on the whole thing with what I was saying earlier with the holograms being recorded or whatever, and you mean to tell me they still didn't figure out who that is, really? Yeah. And as Palpatine gained lots of power in politics and whatnot, and yes, carrying out the whole thing of the events of Order 66, which was, yes, I realized, was intended to destroy his enemies and leave him the ultimate ruler of the galaxy or whatnot. But even years later, you mean to tell me that nobody still couldn't figure out who he is exactly, really? I mean, come on. I know he's supposed to be the puppet master or whatever, but still. You think Yoda would have figured out something, and don't you think he would have, be reviewing the recordings and whatnot, and talk about the possibilities of like an inside job or something? And I just don't get it. And nobody figured out anything like at all. I wouldn't really complain about the technology that's been used in the Star Wars prequel trilogy. And I know a lot of people like to complain about in the Star Wars prequel trilogy that the technology is way more advanced compared to the original Star Wars trilogy. Okay, that's not like the one thing I would definitely disagree with, because you do have to keep in mind that, okay, in Star Wars, there's a big grand uh, you know, galaxies and one other different planets. Well, there you go. That explains that. Those planets out there just be more advanced than others. Kind of like in real life, in the real world, you think planet Earth is the only planet in the entire universe that's advanced technology? No. For all you know, maybe those planets out there have other advanced technology, but had it way before we did. I don't know. Something like that. But here's an actual plot hole here. Obi-Wan's aging. How is it that this is supposed to take place sometime? Episode 3 is supposed to take place like barely before Episode 4, A New Hope. Yet in A New Hope, he looks a lot older in that film compared to this one. So why is the drastic age right there? I don't get it. So we're just supposed to assume that it takes place about 20 years? But even that doesn't make any sense. You still look at least a bit younger than that. But yeah, I don't get that, folks. There's quite a bit of things where I don't get really. So yeah, it really needs to explain that to me, because I don't get it. I really don't get that at all, really. I mean, okay, this video's going long enough, really. If you ask me, this video has gone quite long enough. So even though I was going to make this a lot shorter than how it turned out, but okay, whatever. So yeah, I just want to bring up some things because this doesn't make any sense. I could have actually bring up more plot holes, folks. But trust me, if I wanted to do that, this video will actually be a lot longer than what it is. It'd be much, much longer. So I'm just not gonna, bring that up. Not all of them anyway. There's still a few plot holes I'm starting to bring up, but not all of them really, because this video would be much longer. Even if I want to make multiple parts, just to talk about why I don't think they should do a 4-hour version. But anyway, and I'll do way too many parts just to discuss the numerous plot holes. Just this film alone. Even if I just want to just talk about this film and not the other two prequel trilogy films, there's still a massive amount of plot holes. And it's going to take up way too many parts if you ask me. And I don't feel like putting that much effort into something I really don't care for, really. So I guess I'm just gonna wrap things up already. And oh boy. Yada yada yada. Blah 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 blah. Let's just wrap things up already, I guess. Because this has gone long enough. Even though despite the fact that this was supposed to be much, much shorter. Alright. Okay, if Phantom is supposed to be pregnant, then what is she doing in that really hot lava place? And she doesn't look pregnant at all. And how she thought she's crying, she didn't mind if she was killing people before. And now she's getting all emotional over this. He's obviously supporting a dictatorship kind of a thing. And he's trying to, and then Anakin Skywalker, he's trying to kill her? What the hell? And then accuses Ben Kenobi for turning against him. Even though it's quite obvious that he's doing all these bad things himself. Again, you're harming a pregnant woman. What the actual hell? If anybody that's turning her against you, you're the one that's doing that. I thought both of you are supposed to be in love. But then, yeah, also the odd thing in that scene is he actually believes that he was on board with her, even though it's quite obvious that Ben Kenobi snuck into the ship without her knowing at all. So yeah, there's lots of questionable things in this here, folks. And then he just goes on and talk about he wants to help the Empire or whatever. You mind him murdering people in the previous film, but now it's suddenly a problem? He suddenly want to grow a conscience? That doesn't make any sense. So why is it a problem now? How did you fall in love with this guy? What was so charming about him to begin with? This episode 2, Attack of the Clones, where it's trying to be like a romantic movie in some ways. I mean, it fails at it. Greatly fails at it. But, okay, and nobody ever realizes that these two characters never got married, like, at all. And it's trying to hammer in the idea that Jedi are not supposed to fall in love, and then the whole bit that she's a senator, but she's tempted anyway, I guess. So, why is that in this film it was never brought up, like, at all? Yeah, boy. And then, not only that, in this opera scene where these two characters, the character of Palpatine and Anakin Skywalker, they talk to each other, where Palpatine talks about the whole thing with Darth Plagueis, the wise and old person, I guess. Yet, whom was this Sith Lord who became so powerful that he was able to stop death itself? Yet somehow he seemed to die anyway. What the actual hell? So, not the only thing is that concerns me with this specific scene, it also reveals the fact that Palpatine was using the dark side as a way to create an apprentice for him. Again, going with the whole fatherless virgin birth kind of a thing from episode 1. This confuses me as well. How is it that this was the first and only time that this happened in the entire franchise? This never happened ever again. In Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, which he does return, of course. And why didn't any of that happen here? Why didn't he just do that again? I'm saying that because, like I just said a moment ago, he doesn't make a comeback. And matter of fact, he never mentions it either. Because he's supposed to have a child, a grandson, I mean. So you'd think it would have been brought up. No. It never was. It never was brought up. Like, at all. Yes, before anyone tells me in the comic section, I just want to let you guys know I fully realize that I'm fully aware of the fact that not a lot of the books themselves will attempt to explain a lot of the plot holes I've mentioned, but that's just a stupid. That alone is really dumb because it's like breaking glass. The plot holes in these movies broke lots of glass, and then somebody else has to come up and take care of the mess. And the books, at least a lot of the books anyway, were created as a response to the criticism to the plot holes in these films, and that's it. Those are created as a response to that. To be more specific, I mean the errors of the Star Wars prequel trilogy. And I do understand that there were a bunch of books that were already made prior to the releases of the prequel trilogy films were ever created. I understand that. And also, I have no problem with having books, TV shows, video games, what have you, expand upon its own ideas, themes, concepts, or whatever. That in itself is totally fine. It just seems rather lazy that after George Lucas made a bunch of plot holes in the prequel trilogy films, someone else had to scrap up the mess and attempt to fix it. I guess that's just really bad. Before anyone says anything, I also want to point out the fact I actually and genuinely enjoyed the sequel trilogy a lot more than the Star Wars prequel trilogy. Yeah, I said it. I'm not taking that back either. At least those films were more coherent. Oh, whatever. As always, thanks for watching, and take care. Till next time, see ya. Oh yeah. Later.